let's begin with the human predicament. And what you essentially said in the way we started that, you said was, look, we can think of the human as two systems. And we know that at some point in the future we will upgrade from 2 systems to 3 systems, but for now, you said, let's look at the idea that the body is fully developed, fully evolved. It is already in its heaven, so to speak. And when it works according to design, we experience it as tremendous sense of well-being and health. When something else happens, then there are conditions that we will experience as dis-ease. But that essentially the body knows what it's supposed to do according to design. And then you said, look, the brain-mind compound has that dimension to it where it's unfinished. Unfinished in the sense that we can learn new things, we can connect and literally build new circuitries. And in that sense, that the development capacity is different to just building your muscles. The body can also do certain things in a new way. To an extent, you can build new mechanical skills, although that actually happens through the motor cortex in the brain, and you can innovate the muscles. But there is something, we talked about that sense of the unfinished, the incomplete, in the sense that there is more in that continent, the brain-mind continent, that can be discovered, can be realized. And you set that up to then realize that a lot of where this was taken was not necessarily the best, most optimally wisest choice. And then we quickly took that and journeyed through 7 moves of the mesoteric trace that started with the with the scientific revolution. And we essentially said that. Move 1 was that at some point we got very interested in this idea of taking knowledge as an objective thing outside of us. Up until that time in the ancient world, knowledge was the stories we told around the fire place. And we conveyed stories and meaning in that way, in a tribal fashion. But part of what occurred with the scientific revolution, something else was coming online. That's the esoteric dimension that we will get to another time. And we translated that as the release, humanity translated that as the release to see knowledge as something outside of the human. That's the idea of reification of knowledge as an objective thing that you, the credence of that is privileged through instruments outside the human instrument. And that was given preference. And that was made possible by what we describe as the second move, which was essentially shutting down ourselves increasingly to the intuition, the instinct, the inner lives, the moral compass. And that these 2 moves created a byproduct that we describe as the third move, which is that increasingly human life got distanced and separated from the well-being, the natural flow that joins the natural alignment of living. And that partly that third move accelerated what we describe as the fourth move, which is brains increasingly separated. And that's where we will go more into today, separated from that natural cycle of life, coupled with unlocking the natural inventiveness and innovative power of the brain, unlocked with that orientation that was more exterior based and mechanical based, unlocked the Industrial Revolution. And the joy and the excitement of building engines and machines and all that, a lot of which is awesome and great, but then that was coupled with what we described in the fifth move, which was the advance of modern finance and banking and the innovation of money on money return that unleashed this greed-driven, extractive, exploitative orientation towards the planet and natural resources, which is where the brain is running even more into this fantasy that we are gaining control, and that is powered by the sixth move, which we described as local, national, and global institutions, that the establishment of institutions that enshrined, if you like, all that was produced in the orientation, the alignment, the sense of these earlier moves, bringing online the seventh move, really, which was the idea of normalizing all of that. So the operating system of this entire cascade being normalized so much that we see this to be the expected paradigm. So the healthcare system, the education system, all the large institutions, they bring that orientation of no longer seeing the human as the creative being that the human naturally is, but seeing the human as the consumer, the economic unit that it is. And so that we brought that trace all the way to me proposing that the question we are looking to explore today is, so what happens then in light of all that? What happens to the brain and to the human system when it is divorced from its natural well-being and it is taken in this ride that we're describing over the last 400 years? And then inside it, what are some of the reasons for the addictions? And that we live in in a time where we see addictions all over the place. Why that is the case, and how does it relate to the story of the human predicament? And why is it that the brain needs this increasing stimulation and all that we see in the pathologies of addictions? Along with our website at portalsofperception.org, Portals is also available on YouTube and on all podcast platforms, as well as social media. You can become an active member and join the conversation in community events. And you can help us get the word out by liking this content and by sharing it with your friends.